Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Lift Eat podcast, brought to you by Hunt Lift Eat Official on Instagram. Back for another nice afternoon recording with my guy, Carrie. What's going on,
Yeah,
dude?
man. Dude, these midday recordings are pretty awesome. I don't feel like I'm going to
I
fall asleep
agree.
at the end of them. When you get done with a late night one and you're like, I hope I didn't say anything stupid because I'm feeling delirious.
Yeah, dude. And you and I like to get in bed relatively early. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all for a midday recording. So kudos to our guest that we have on today. We're
Yeah,
excited to have him
squeeze it
on.
in.
We're excited. That's right. We're excited to have Luke Pearsall on the podcast today, the founder of Trail Goods company. And, you guys are bringing premium, freeze dried meals, camping and adventure meals to the stage, right? You guys are bringing them to the market now. And we're excited to chat with you, Luke.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We are in month 3. We launched at the Hunt Expo in Salt Palace in February. So, things have been rolling, and it's exciting to kind of share everything that's going on with you guys.
Yeah, I wanna, talk about your background and how you got into all this first. I don't
Sure.
want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but being 3
Sure.
months in, man, like there's a lot of growing pains that we can discuss too with starting your own business that you are, I'm sure, in the midst of experiencing each and every day. But you sure don't seem like you're in your third month, man. Like you guys, you seem very well established.
Yeah, I mean, it's an army of one. I'm literally sitting in my guest bedroom surrounded by product that when I'm done here, I'll be packing into boxes and going to the post office with. So, um, I feel like I've had a little bit of marketing experience in the past, so I can present much bigger than I am at the moment,
Yeah,
which is a good thing, but also a bad thing when you talk about growing pains because sometimes the amount of hours I can give to it exceed what are needed. But it's a good problem to have.
absolutely,
Yeah, for
man.
sure.
Well, let's start at the beginning, Luke. I'm really
Sure.
interested in your story, in your background, particularly the TV show that you worked on in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Very curious about that, man. But tell us about, kind of your background, your upbringing, your relationship with the outdoors.
Yeah. Um, going all the way back to like, let's say my parents. My parents went backpacking for their honeymoon, like in the 70s. So like my family has always spent time in the outdoors and really like, my parents were teachers and there wasn't a ton of money to go around. So we spent our time, camping, doing things that didn't cost much money. And at a very young age, I was exposed to like national parks and like especially the West. My parents met in Washington State. They actually were on a Native American reservation when they were married. They were married there, so there's been like deep roots to that culture as well growing up. But truly, that's all I wanted to do as a kid. I was obsessed with like the Appalachian Trail, and I say Appalachian, not Appalachian, because I'm from New Jersey. That's a big discussion. I get it. I get it. Um, are you guys in Georgia? Is that where you're at?
I'm in Georgia, Carrie's in Kentucky, so we both say
Yeah,
Appalachian.
Oh, you're
yeah.
Appalachian boys. Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. I get both sides of it. But just kind of like it's all ever wanted to do is spend time outside and uh that didn't really happen on a large scale until later on in life. Went to college and ended up getting to the TV side of things. I ended up in Hawaii and got a job working on the TV show Lost out there. And in a weird way, too, it was sort of connected to the outdoors because we were on, the island of Oahu, but we spent all our time in the jungle. I mean, we had
Yeah.
like a wild boar wrangler that would come in and get all the boars out of the jungle for the morning every morning. You know, there's tons of them.
Oh yeah, everywhere,
Yeah,
man.
it's awesome.
How
Yeah,
cool was
yeah.
that
It was
working on that show?
it was amazing because I was like 23 years old and just out of college, and then randomly chanced into the biggest show on television, and we won an Emmy award that year and like all sorts of stuff. It's kind of like that show was like the beginning of when TV got really big, like big budgets, and like started to look more like a movie than a TV show. So yeah, it was an exciting time. Like it was a kind of an epic change in television to be part of. And like literally I had no reason to be there other than the fact that I just called up the production office every day until they hired me, you know.
I like it. Persistence. No, dude,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. I can't sit down in front of the TV for too long, but I think that was one of the first TV series that I actually sat down and like binge watched.
Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
think it was one of those first series that like once it came out on, you know, streaming platforms and stuff, like people just dove into it. And
yeah.
I actually don't even really after I stopped working on it, I never watched the end of it. So I don't know what happened after season 2. I gotta get back in there.
You're just like the rest of us because I have no idea what was going on in that show.
You know, there's like a little known fact that the producers and writers of that show, they would actually go on like I guess like forums and read what fans of the show were saying to get ideas for where the show was headed.
That's awesome.
They didn't know.
Rumor is they created the forum.
That's funny. Yeah, because it was awesome, which kind of ties in with your company and Carrie's background as bushcraft and survival. Like that show was awesome when it was like about surviving on an island. Like I could wrap my head around it when it was that. Yeah. I was like, that's sick. Like this is because who hasn't pictured themselves in that scenario before, right? Like, yeah, I can make it. I can survive.
Absolutely. And the way they survived was basically off of propane fire pits that looked like fires and things like that on the show, you know, like bring in the fire.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
No, I agree. When it was about survival, I loved it. You know, even just being on the sets were super cool because they tried to make it look as at least authentic as they could, you know, with the material that would have been in a plane crash. So that was pretty rad.
That's way cool. And then
I transitioned to like other shows that didn't have anything to do with like the outdoors or anything like that.
Right. And then you spent some time in South America and you spent time on some of the big trails here in the United States too. Talk to us a little bit about kind of those experiences and how that kind of maybe shaped your future.
Yeah. I mean, just real quick, going back to Hawaii. Hawaii is the reason, like that time in Hawaii is the reason why I created the Loco Moco breakfast for the company. So that was a very popular breakfast in Hawaii with like the savory gravy and beef and stuff like that. And it's super different than like any other breakfast skillet you'll get on the market today. So all of the meals that I've created so far have some sort of little reflection of, you know, a period of time in my life.
I love that.
But going back to the South America thing, I moved to LA after Lost, you know, worked on a TV show called Entourage for a while. It was a really popular show as well. And then I just got like a little burnt out on TV and I wanted to get back into the woods, basically, or just like have big epic adventures. And similar to how I got my job when I started in television, I just started like calling up guiding companies in South America. And after about like a month, there was one company that called me up and they're like, hey, we're going to be at an expo in Long Beach. Like you've emailed us every day. Like we'll meet with you and see if you can, if you can work for us. And went down to Long Beach from Los Angeles and met with the guy, did like a Spanish speaking exam, which like I'm not fluent or was not fluent at the time. But knew enough to get by. And he was like, hey, do you want to move to Brazil in 2 weeks? And I was like, whoa, okay. I said yes, first of all. And then I went home and I said, oh, I don't think I can wrap up this life in 2 weeks, you know. And I called them back and I was like, is there any other option? Like I got things to take care of before I literally leave my entire life here. And it ended up that there was another tour that started in Ecuador and would end in Chile. They're 8-week-long tours, and they're called local transportation tours. So I would hire like buses and land cruisers and anything it took to get to from point A to point B. And I led 21 people, north to south and then south to north, back and forth on 8-week tours in South America, which was incredible. I was only 26 at the time.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing I ever did because, you're dealing with like challenges of like government and like crossing borders when there was riots, like people were dying in riots on borders and you're having to like sneak them around in safe ways to enter countries. Like we had a mine collapse on us in Bolivia. Like there's some terrifying things that happened, and this was back like 20 years ago when things like you don't really hear about any of that. Like social media wasn't around. So like something like that happened. Your parents are back home wondering what the hell happened to you for a few days. And you're like, everything's good. You walk through a telephone in some town, oh, yeah, it's just been out of contact for a few days. We're good. Just worked our way out of a mine in Bolivia, But yeah. so there was that little section of my life too, which kind of was a year. Then I came back to LA and got back into TV and film and photography and all those things again. But I guess you want to figure out like how I ended up in the food thing.
I do. What inspired you to start Trail Goods?
Yeah, so I became heavily like kind of involved in the outdoor industry from a creative perspective, producing things and doing photo work and things like that. There was sort of like a large social media following that grew behind that, with my Instagram account, which was just random that it happened. Partly because I shot fashion photography in LA, which is a completely different thing. But everybody wanted to see the girls, and when I stopped posting the girls, the flow slowed down. But I got hired by another brand about 3 years ago to like come in and consult for them and tell them like where they were going wrong, because the food that they had launched on the market, which was doing okay, was just being reviewed horribly. There was no one in the company that really knew anything about the outdoor industry, and they just wanted to see a path forward. So I flew to Salt Lake City. I spent a week there kind of going over what they're doing wrong and what they could do right. And at the end of that, they wanted me to stay, and kind of liked the path forward that I had presented, which I had no intentions of doing. But then I saw it as kind of an opportunity to do something new, which I've kind of always been open to doing. And spent 2 years there relaunching their brand, which has become like fairly popular in the past year or so. That brand just, they got into Bass Pro Cabela's nationwide, like lots of things like that. Sadly, as soon as that all happened, there was a change of ownership in the company, and they decided to eliminate my position running the brand. So I was kicked to the curb on the day I thought I was getting a promotion for doing so well. But
after helping
that's
them.
Yeah, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever worked like in any sort of like corporate environment. And to me, like if I look back at it, like it was good for the time and like that I was there, but corporate thing isn't my thing. Like I want to wear a hoodie and a hat to work, like my whole goal with Trail Goods is that like someday when I do have employees, that like they can dress however the hell they want and show up however they want, be comfortable, because like that's what an outdoor brand should be in my eyes, like, and we should actually like put some emphasis on giving people time to get outside and do stuff, So I've got some ideas there that could no way have been implemented in a corporate environment, but definitely at Trail Goods, I'd like to do that, because I don't want people to be like me. I don't want to, the more time I spent working for the outdoor industry, the less time I spent outdoors. And that's been the toughest part about the whole thing. I like going backpacking, but backpacking season and hunting seasons are the seasons that I'm the busiest. So,
Yep.
It's been a weird transition in that way. The last company was getting to a point where I could have taken more time off because it was starting to do its own thing, but back to the drawing board. But truly, like when I got let go, I just like I had built that whole vertical within that company, so there was only really one option for me, and it was to do things the right way and honestly get to create meals that I was limited in making at the other company for whatever reason, whether it was like the cost of an ingredient or people didn't want to put in effort to source an ingredient that makes the meal taste unique. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
asking for Thai basil, which is fairly common in every Thai restaurant in the country. Like it's not impossible to get. And at the last place, you would have thought that you were asking them to go to Thailand and grow it and pick it and bring it back, to put in the meal. So it's not that complicated. You make one phone call to your source
That's
and
right.
they deliver it.
The whole world at your fingertips. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that just like looping everything together, like that's a difference between like what I'm doing now and what I think a lot of the freeze dried companies that exist out there aren't doing. Is that like I'm not afraid to kind of play with uh, ideas and flavors that like people haven't had before. I know biscuits and gravy is a bestseller across the board for like every single brand, but I really don't have any intentions of doing biscuits and gravy because I don't want to. Good ones exist. Like Peak
Yeah.
Refuel's got a good biscuits and gravy. The biscuits and gravy I made for Ready Wise, were great. The new ones, anyway. And so I just don't need to put another, call it like a copycat product on the market. And I
Yeah.
think so many of the brands do that, and then you just have to sell against them. So,
Right.
making a rice dish for breakfast was a bold move, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about that particular rice dish and some of the other ones that I had the opportunity to taste in a little
Yeah,
bit.
man.
Can you tell me about? I'm just like real curious about what was your culinary background? Were you just really interested in food and like how ingredients work together? Like there had to have been some, right? You had to have been educated from that point of view to be like, yeah, I can make a company based around this.
Yeah, I think well, I've always had like an interest in food, and I've been around food even in my like production life that I've had. So I've had a lot of like influence there, and I kind of just like anything, if you're a good hobbyist at anything, you kind of start to figure out, how things work. I know people that are home brewers that make as good a beer, at home that
Yeah.
a brewery makes. It's kind of a very similar thing there. But like everyone in my family cooks, the men in my family have always cooked as well. So I've always been around people that are cooking. Like the joke in our family is like we just basically when we're together, we go from one meal to the next. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
breakfast is done. What are we going to start planning for lunch? And then lunch is done. All right, we should get ready for dinner. It's like eat all day is what they chant. So I'm on the right
That's awesome.
podcast, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. What when you decided to make this leap and go solo, what problems or gaps had you identified with typical backcountry meals that because you just mentioned something really intelligent, right? Like if there's biscuits and gravy, everybody has a biscuits and gravy, right? Cool, right? Maybe that's a saturated market. How can trail goods be different than what already exists, right? You didn't invent freeze dried meals, right? So now you're coming into
No.
an occupied space. How can I be different? So, what are some problems or gaps that you have identified with some other? We don't have to name brands or nothing, but
Yeah,
that
yeah,
people
no.
find dried meals.
I think, if you're looking at some of the traditional brands, and I'm going to loop this in kind of with the hunting industry, and if you look at some of the traditional brands that have been really supported by the purchasing of their items through the hunting industry is like the number one buyer, consumer of these type of meals.
Yep.
It's not backpackers, it's not campers, it's the hunting industry. The hunting industry folks are 100% above and beyond any of the other categories. But those brands traditionally have not truly supported the hunting industry or embraced it. They were always outliers, but never really said like, "I'm going to go on a podcast and talk to these people," or anything like that. Really, like, and that's initially was one of the things that like stood out to me as like I don't understand that like these meal companies who are making like subpar meals at best and making like tens of millions of dollars off of these hunters every year. How they get away with it. I don't know how you don't support a community that is your main consumer of your product. That's why I prefer to launch at the Hunt Expo rather than, outdoor retailer or something like that. Which is, I got nothing against outdoor retailer or anything like that, but I just knew that the community that I felt I was making meals for, like I needed to think about that, and actively take a part in the community, and that's why I like coming talking to you guys is important, and having friends like Armando at Bow Hitch is important, and all those things. But just kind of like getting back to the gaps, and those companies also make meals that were sort of like individual freeze-dried ingredients with an individual sauce that they would make. So it's a lot of powder, and they hope it cooks in the process of rehydration is where like that flavor comes about. And that's kind of, I think, where a lot of that gut bomb comes from those meals, where you're like, you're not feeling great like 20 minutes after you finish those meals. And so like me having like a little bit of culinary background, I know that the only way to make food taste like real food and taste like food you have at home is to like cook the meal completely. And it's nothing
Yeah.
different than any other person with a freeze dryer at home is really doing. But, the caveat to that is that those older brands make meals that will last for 25 years. My meals will last like 5 to 7 years. I claim 5 only because they haven't existed for 7 years yet, but I'm sure they can go beyond that. And I use, I'm using the same technology that they use, like everything's the same. It's just that I use real ingredients. So like the Loco Moco breakfast has a roux in it that's made with real butter, and it tastes better because there's real butter in it. And the creamy pasta has real cream in it. And like those things matter. They're more expensive, and that's why other companies don't use it. I mean, my profit margins are smaller than those companies for sure, but like I want to make food that people can eat. And I like truly believe that, if you do that, you'll do a volume business, and who knows, maybe I'm just taking a gamble at something that people don't care about. But I think, in my long distance backpacking experiences, if I have one meal to eat and get all my calories at the end of the day, I want it to taste good,
Yeah, and it's super important, man. It's going to keep you in the woods longer if you're a hunter. It's going to keep you on the trail longer if you're a backpacker or whatever. It's going to keep you in the game because, dude, like sitting out at the end of a hard day and eating shit sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sucks.
And
Or even
I remember back in the day, our options. Yeah, your options were ramen or an MRE, which is god awful, and then there was a really big brand name freeze dried company that still makes god awful food. But like, those were your choices,
Yeah.
So you sucked it up and did it. But yeah, now I mean, there's other brands coming along that are actually making decent food, and I love the fact that you're cooking a meal and then freeze drying that meal instead of, like you said, pieces at a time. That's super crucial.
It's important. I mean, like flavor happens in the cooking process. I would say that the only thing that I'm not cooking like in that process is the noodle and the rice. The only reason for that being that they're already like in a state that they don't need water to be added to them and then taken away again. It's just a waste of money. So there's no reason for me to rehydrate rice to just take the water out at $3 a wet pound to remove. It would make the meals astronomically, cost astronomical amounts to do things like that. And it's kind of, I have not seen much of a difference. I've done it both ways, and it just makes more sense to do everything but the noodle and rice. But the meals, the sauces, the vegetables are all cooked together, all cooked in the meat juices, as long as we're getting into the talk, the nitty gritty. But like, the flavor happens because we don't remove any of the meat from the rest of the pot, cooks like a stew,
Yeah. The value.
Like, this guy right here, this has it's got 53 grams of protein in the pouch and 940 calories. The noodles are real noodles that you would get like in a Chinese restaurant. And I had to go find them because they don't just like exist in an instant form. Those ones are fully cooked, contrary to what I was saying, but like it's a stir-fried noodle, so it should be stir-fried with the ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, the value of having a good meal when you're in the backcountry is astronomical and oftentimes underappreciated, because I've had, and Kerry is a former Green Beret. He's had far more terrible days in the backcountry than me, but even in the hunting world, like I've had some rough days where you're just like, this stinks, right? This is the worst, right? Whether it's weather or exertion, or like you can't find any animals or whatever. And, having a good, tasty meal at the end of the day can be the make or break point. Kerry, we've talked about keeping a positive mental attitude and, staying in the game, right? A good meal is part of that, right? And a part of that, when we're looking at the whole hunt itself, if you have good food to keep you fueled, that keeps you in the game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I remember sitting under a tarp in the pouring rain. It's cold as shit. It's pissing out. Can't do anything in Alaska this last year. Can't do anything because it's fogged in, and you're just sitting there miserable as shit. And then, like I have a weird diet. I eat weird things, but like I was eating shelf-stable bacon, and I was like, there's got to be a way to make this better. So I ended up making taking beef bone broth and made a stew using shelf-stable bacon. And like, it's terrible. Like, you eat it at home, you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever eaten. But out there, I'm like, this isn't so bad. I can sit here for a while.
It was like a quality of bacon and bone broth.
Yep. Beef bone broth, shelf-stable bacon, and I added a little extra salt in there too, just to kind of give it a little more, I guess. But yeah. You eat it at home, you're like, this is stupid. Who came up with this?
Yeah, well, I've gone through a lot of those recipes myself, trying to figure out things that are unique. So
yeah,
that was one of the that was one of the questions I had for you, Luke. I want to know about, before we get into some of your successful recipes, what are some things that you've tried that haven't quite panned out?
Yeah, there's been a couple. Like I tried to make tamales, which they're made out of cornmeal kind of, and pork or whatever protein you put in, and the tamale just like did not come back to life. It tasted like just kind of mushy cornmeal. It was not great. I could have probably passed it off for like grits or something, but
right.
I think actually grits are on my lineup somewhere. I'll figure out how to do a grits meal.
Heck yeah.
Because I don't know if it's would you guys eat grits?
Oh yeah.
We've got some PTSD about a grits from about a year ago.
Oh no.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe I should stay away.
There was just this massive fight about whether, was it sweet grits versus salty grits or something like that? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Within the old savory versus sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to the point like nobody say grits ever again. Like, we're done.
All right, they're out.
You should definitely jump. No, definitely put them in. They're so good, man. It would make a lot of sense in a freeze-dried meal.
Mm.
Yeah. I've played around with polenta as well, which is basically the Italian form of grits. So some great Italian sausage stuff I have coming out. That's going to be really good. It's all a matter of, I have to sell the meals I have so I can make new meals right now. But, I've completely bootstrapped this entire company, which has been crazy because I'm living like I'm a college kid, and I'm, I just ran like a multi-million-dollar brand that I got fired from. But literally, if, at least I had meals, like,
that's right. Good meals. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we get that, man. Like, in Hunt Lift Eat, right? All right, we have to sell the t-shirts that we have so that we can pay for the next order of t-shirts that we hope to sell, right? And
Yeah.
that inventory will sit proverbially, behind you on the shelves until they sell,
Yeah.
right? And you, as the
Yeah.
business owner, you hope they do so that you can continue making new things, right? It's like it's kind of an insane thing to do, start your own business and go the
It is
entrepreneur
like
route.
some days I'm like, you are a psychopath. Why did you put this all on the line right now? Like, and then like you have moments where you're like, I guess I believe in this. I believe in this. So you keep telling yourself
Yeah,
that. And like I do, like I don't really doubt that part. I know everything takes time and I've already had like fairly good momentum. So, I'll just keep eating my own food until I can afford to buy the other stuff.
right. You speaking of the good moments, man, you posted recently you got your first wholesale order.
Yeah, it was a
Outstanding.
big moment to have that
Yeah,
kind of happen, and it makes you believe that like, oh, okay, so you're not always just selling like $30 worth of meals to someone. Like once you get the wholesale side cranking, it's you do much better. They buy hundreds of meals at a
yeah,
time. And truly, like, you make a
yeah.
lot less money per pouch doing it that way, but, the volume's there, so it doesn't
And the
matter, and
exposure.
hopefully that'll turn into another one and another one, you know? Uh, Maybe one day I'll get an employee. You never know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, what does it look like when you're actually making these meals? Do you have like a commercial style kitchen or?
Yeah, so I basically have a relationship with a manufacturer, and we cook everything in, like 400-pound kettles. They're like big, massive sort of pots, essentially, and, they get, like, hot enough to sear meat and simmer things and all that, but, like, they're like cauldrons. Um, and I just did 4,000 pounds of food, so I just did 2 tons of food this past month. And surprisingly, you can cook that food in those in, like, 2 days. It only took 2 days to cook it, but then it takes, 24 hours to freeze it in a freezer, and then takes another 24 hours to suck out all the water. And right now, 3 weeks later, it's getting pouched into packages as we speak. But yeah, I hire all those people sort of as needed, the facility as needed, and they're USDA inspected, which is another thing that a lot of smaller companies don't do. That scares me a little bit. There's a bunch of small brands that pop out. Say we have a meal brand, and then you look in the bottom like right corner of a package. If it doesn't have a little circle there that says with a USDA on it, that means that they're most likely like cooking it in a uninspected kitchen, which means if you have any allergies or things like that, I would be weary that
Be careful.
they did the proper cleaning and things like that. Not to say that their kitchens are dirty or anything, but they just aren't playing by the rules, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. So what
You
is this
kill
freezer? Yeah. What does this freezer look like that you need to put 4,000 pounds of food in?
I
Big.
mean, they're like the size of like semi trucks.
Oh gosh.
You just
Okay.
you just reel in the carts, like you put them on big like 4 by 4 foot trays because it's got to be kind of like spread out to freeze. And then yeah, there's just stacked super high, and then you just roll the cart right in and let it sit. It's actually like a fairly streamlined process. But we have to weigh all the food before it goes in, and then weigh all the food when it comes out of the freeze dryer, because I need to know like what my product yield is. Different foods have different water content, so that's the trickiest part, honestly, about trying to figure out how like your cost per pouch, because if someone's selling a hat or a t-shirt, they know what the t-shirt costs and how many they can
Right.
produce for the amount of money. But for me, I don't know that until I make a $10,000 investment to see how many meals. I could do a run of meals and be like, God, that didn't yield enough for it to be profitable for me.
Right.
Which
That's a
thank God hasn't
risky.
happened yet. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like food generally on average has about a 20% yield of what it goes in. So my 4,000 pounds of food will be 800 pounds
Okay.
when it comes out, I think, if my
And then
math is right.
describe to me the vacuum process. What does that machine look like? I have an image in my head, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like very similar, kind of like a semi truck, style. But
just
it's
as
tubular.
a giant vacuum?
Yeah, it's like a giant kind of like giant tubes, and the process is basically like food goes in, it deep freezes it down to like, I don't know, negative a lot. I don't know that exact number. But then the vacuum starts. So the vacuum sucks all the water out to like the barrel, and it freezes to the side of the barrel. So it sucks it out of the food, and it just goes.
Wow.
And like when it's done, there's like a big ice rim around the barrel, which will melt out.
Wow.
But yeah, it's pretty wild. It's amazing to see something that goes in as a whole piece of something come out 20% of what it is, you know.
Wow.
It's like the reverse of those little sponges you used to throw in the water and they expand, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But truly, like the cool thing about freeze drying as opposed to like dehydrated meals is freeze drying keeps like 98% of the nutritional value. So if you're eating the vegetables, they're like vegetables that were just picked.
Yep.
And it takes many, 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 many years for that to start to degrade at all. So, you know, when you talk about nutrition, all that nutrition is still in there. Dehydration uses heat, so heat degrades the nutrition in the meal that a dehydrated meal would have. So it's kind of the difference.
Can you talk about, you know, when you're making these meals, how important the nutritional value of these meals is to you? What are you looking for? Because I like all the numbers I'm seeing on your packages for when you're in the backcountry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. You know, in my last role, I made 8 meals with 8 different athletes. So I spent a lot of time talking to them about like what's important to them in terms of calories, in terms of protein, in terms of carbohydrates. And we sort of tried the best we could to develop the meals around those kind of, you know, guardrails. And so I was able to take that kind of into these meals and know that like, you know, there's certain things you can do, certain things you can't do, right? Like I can't, everybody has the, you know, everybody says like these kind of meals have a lot of sodium in it, right? Like that's one big complaint that everybody says, like they're loaded with sodium. Well, that's true to a certain degree, but you can mitigate it a little bit. What's that?
I said you need it. You got to have it when you're in the backcountry. You need that sodium.
See, that's the thing that a normal, like you understand that a normal person that's just like, I'm not asking people to eat it, you know, casually for their work lunch, you know, at their desk. Like it's a high output meal for high output activities. You know, the other side of that is, you know, food has sodium in it. Like if you were to break down the food that you eat on a normal day, you'd be in those ranges. Like it's not very much off. Like, you know, people go eat sushi and put soy sauce. Soy sauce has so much sodium in it. Like I had to be careful with the amount of, I love the soy flavor and it's in a lot of sauces, but you have to be careful with it because you could blow your sodium out the roof.
Yeah. See, the more and more I'm learning about like nutrition and stuff like that, because I've got really messed up guts from hanging out in third world countries too much. So I got to get real smart about it. But like, dude, the amount of sodium a human actually needs to be like beneficial for you, like it's unpalatable, you know? So a lot of like the scare things about, oh, you need to lower sodium, that's too much sodium in that. A lot of that's bullshit. You know, it's the same people trying to tell you that canola oil is better than butter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm all about a higher sodium content 100% if I'm in the backcountry, whether I'm going on a backpacking trip or I'm hiking, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, absolutely higher sodium content. And if you're scared of sodium, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, sodium's an electrolyte. Like it's probably the number one, you know?
Yep.
So if you're sweating, which I mean, imagine you're carrying out an elk. You're gonna be sweating. You're gonna be losing a lot of water. You're not necessarily gonna be wanting to stop and rehydrate all the time. But like they sell salt pills for that exact reason. There's salt electrolytes. So, you know, I'm not as worried about it as some people. Like, I definitely understand that, there's different people that have different dietary restrictions, like high blood pressure, things like that. And maybe those aren't the meals for them, and they should, I don't know what they need to do. But if that's a problem for them, then I would suggest that they don't eat it. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but the majority of
Yeah.
people can handle that sodium. It also makes the meal taste good. Like, sodium is a flavor enhancer.
Yep.
So
Right.
there's one thing I've learned in this role is that there's a lot of sort of misinformation about ingredients, particularly that people just don't know. Like, going back to people say like no monosodium glutamate, MSG, right? That was a big thing for a long time. Monosodium glutamate is like an amazing flavor enhancer. I don't use any, but like, it's found in tomatoes. It's a
Yeah.
naturally derived product, and it was just made to seem like it was something bad.
Right.
But if you look at, like, everybody loves ranch dressing, right? You know what makes ranch dressing taste so good? MSG. It's in the back of every single pack. I mean, if you pay attention to those things, it's like, okay, whatever, and there's a lot of talk around like seed oils and inflammation and things like that. Like, but if you really look at the research, like, you can go either way on that, but like, it's pretty heavily like debunked that seed oils don't necessarily cause as much inflammation as, like, you would have to drink gallons of seed oils, which no one's
Right.
going to do. And
Right.
that's what a lot of this is like, uh, you could have a dye that could cause, a cancer or has been linked to it. You'd have to drink gallons and gallons and gallons. You'll never consume that much in a lifetime, which, like, I get the connections, but like, there's also, it's just learning about what you personally care about and want to put in your body, But my meals are clean, fresh ingredients, and that's all I care about, really.
And that's
Yeah,
how they
like
taste. I'd like to oh, go ahead, Kerry.
oh no, I was just gonna ask, man, about how and where you source your ingredient. Like how does that process look like when you're going to find these? Because I mean, 4,000 pounds of food, that's a lot of ingredients.
Yeah, dude. It was pretty intimidating. In my last role, like, we had a guy that sourced ingredients. That was his full-time job, like, all day, every day, looking for ingredients. But I had to do it all myself, and truly, like, you have to kind of dig around. Like, I wanted a very specific noodle, but that noodle, like, when you start to look at noodles for like an Asian meal, some of those aren't allowed in to be sold in California because they have a Prop 65, which is a whole different conversation. Um, yeah, but I eventually found, I tested a million different brands, went to a million different supermarkets, and I found the one I liked. I had to figure out how to get a food distributor to actually source it for me, and they get it now. Um, it's expensive to do it, but it's the noodle I wanted, and I'm not trying to compromise on those type of things. But in terms of like proteins and meats, I actually have a really great like butcher in Salt Lake City who um he grinds like beef for me the day before I cook it. And he'll cut my chicken up for me, which is like never frozen. So it's kind of cool. Like, I don't think a lot of
Yeah.
brands probably have that either. The fact that it's like sort of locally sourced right where I cook my meals is pretty amazing. And they're willing to kind of work with me as I grow. But I'm ordering 1,000 pounds of beef at a time, or 1,000 pounds of chicken. So uh it's pretty wild to see it all come in,
Yeah.
That's a
poured
wild
into
amount.
pots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I ordered like 700 pounds of onions for the last round.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Luke, I want to take a look at some of these meals specifically.
sure.
Thank you for sending me a couple, man, and I really enjoyed trying them, and so did my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old. I've got
Oh,
their
good.
reviews. I've got their reviews written down here as well.
Those are my favorite ones.
That's right. So your instant coffee, man, there's nothing better than a cup of coffee in the backcountry Whether it's cold or hot, man, I like to have a cup of coffee in the morning. But the caveat to that is for me, oftentimes as a whitetail tree stand hunter, I don't drink coffee in the morning hunt because coffee's a diuretic, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
oftentimes cuts my hunt short, right?
tickle
So
tickle
that's important to me. Yeah, that's important to me as a consumer, right? And
for
I
sure.
am happy to report back your coffee tasted great and everything was okay for a sustained amount of time, an appropriate amount of time for the backcountry. So that will
Fantastic.
be my new, yeah, that'll be my new tree stand
I should
coffee,
put that on the
man. But
package, you know.
honestly, man, it's a factor, right? Like I stopped
It
drinking
is.
coffee when I go on morning hunts because whatever, that's effective for me.
Same.
I
Um,
get up
Same.
I get up about an hour and a half to 2 hours
right. And
before
I
I
like
leave.
that extra hour of sleep. So I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get about like 30 seconds. I'm not gonna lie.
Where do you get
Yeah.
tell us about the coffee?
Yeah, so the coffee is sourced from Colombia. It's 100% Colombian coffee, Arabica beans, and the company that I get it from down there. It's the only thing I don't make myself because I'm not a coffee grower. Um, they are like a collective that of farmers that own the entire company, and it's a pretty big company actually. And it's really high quality stuff. They know where it's coming from. Like the money they make directly goes to the farmers, and they have freeze dried machines there, which is a little bit different than a normal instant coffee. Like there's a way that like have you ever had like Senka coffee back in the day? Like they use a process that like sprays it. It's like a spray process to dry it out. I don't know if it's alcohol or something like that that helps dry the bean or dry the coffee, but this is just like the process we were just talking about. It literally coffee goes in on trays, it gets sucked out, and all that's left is like this pure little coffee crystal, um, which makes it super water soluble. You could do it in hot or cold water. Cold water might take a couple more seconds to rehydrate. But like truly, it's like a really high quality coffee, and we've tested it in a lot of different places with a lot of different people, and like it's the sleeper product, honestly, that of the entire launch. Like people have come back for more and more. Like people buy 5 at a time. It's crazy.
I'm gonna
I'm
have
gonna,
to. I'm on my second cup of your coffee today.
Oh,
I
nice.
was about to say, I'm about to
Yeah.
put it in order while we're sitting here.
Carrie,
You
I'll
should.
get you some. Don't put it in order. I'll get you some.
It's really good. Um,
The cool
the
thing about the coffee situation too, that like a lot of people don't know, and maybe it's just like I know it because I play around with it so much, but you can, if you have like one of those frothers, like the thing that spins around really fast, you can put that in your creamer and it makes like a coffee foam, which is amazing for like iced coffee and drinks and things like that. It's like kind of a unique thing, and you can cook with it if you want coffee flavor. You can put coffee rub on meat. Like there's a lot of different ways to use it, which has been pretty
yeah,
neat to show people.
for sure. And I like the serving size is great. It's 30 servings per pack, which is great. Bring one of those to hunt camp. And then you and the boys, everybody, has enough coffee. Bring, whatever, bring 2 packs if you got some big coffee drinkers. And you can cover
Yeah.
your bases there. Or like you're saying, right? Rub some of those grounds when somebody gets an animal down, put some on some mule deer back straps or,
Yep.
whatever, right? It's always great over the grill.
Yeah. And truly, like, I'm glad that you picked up on that a little bit because that, like, everything I've done has been intentional in terms of like the packaging, right? I wanted the packaging to be small enough that you can just like stick it in your pocket if you needed to. And I wanted it to be I didn't want to do stick packs because I think stick packs don't give the consumer the ability to make the coffee as strong as they want it. You know, some people like strong coffee, so use 2 teaspoons in there, make it the way you want it. Like I'm not going to
Yep.
decide for you how strong you want your coffee. So
Yeah.
like that was intentional. I don't really stick packs just add cost that gets passed on to the consumer. Like for what like I said, I come from a family that didn't have a lot of money. So like I think about my consumers in everything I do, and I'm not trying to like overcharge anybody for anything.
Yeah.
Um, but like the stick packs costs like $1.25 a cup. You do the math on mine, it's probably like 20 cents, somewhere in there, 22 cents a cup. So it's like 5 times as cheap for, way more.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's an incredible value. And then last night for dinner, I had your stir-fried pork noodles.
Oh yeah.
Me and my girls tried, and my wife did too. I
Nice.
liked a lot of the numbers I was seeing on the package, man. 940 calories, right, for the whole
Yeah.
bag. 38 grams of fat. I love seeing high fat on these meals in the backcountry. That is your fuel source. You've got to have high fat. And I'm sure you hear from people like, oh, there's too much fat. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you need that. That is your fuel source. That is good for your brain, and that is good for your body to continue
Correct.
moving. High sodium, that was great to see. 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Again, like I'm a sweater. I pour sweat all the time.
Yeah.
So replenishing that is super important. Even if it's really cold outside, you're still losing moisture, right? And you have
Absolutely.
to deliver your hydration. You have to have it. 53 grams of protein. Come on, that's unreal in that little pack. That was awesome to see. And I can't read my writing. How many grams of carbs? 78?
Yep, that's about right.
I have bad handwriting. But I was happy to
I
see.
have bad memory, but I do have the packet right here. It should be right
I was
around.
happy to see,
No, 98.
good. Yeah. I was happy to see super high carb numbers on there too. Yeah, that was awesome. It was great.
So, like, just to talk about a couple of those points, there's like over a third of a pound of ground pork in every single one of those. Like, it's a substantial amount. Which,
Yeah.
again, like, I could be a meal company that throws in a quarter of a pound and save myself $1. But I don't do that because I want it to be, I want those numbers to be what they are. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you should have a meal that tastes like you had a meal and not like you picked through like 3 little crumbs of meat that made its way in there and, hopefully it got rehydrated,
Yeah.
But truly, like, even the noodles, I picked the noodles because the noodles had protein in them. That's why I went through that whole process, is that, like, it's an egg noodle, so, like, it has protein in the noodle itself. I think in the noodles alone, there's probably, like, close to 10 grams of protein in just the noodles.
That's
wow.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 2-year-old loved it, man. She just snatched the bag out of my hand, and
The
she was
kids
just
seem to really like the noodle one. I don't know what that is. My niece and nephews too.
it is kid approved. But, like, it goes back to what you're saying and kinda what your core values are as a company, right? Like, I thought to myself last night, I was like, Hadley would not be doing this with other freeze-dried meals that I've eaten while hunting, right? It's just good taste. You can't put a price or a value on that, man. And the fact that they loved it made me excited to take them, outdoors.
Yeah, man. Yeah, good taste, good nutrition. Yeah, it's all super important, man. Like, there's so much bullshit out there, and the team kind of makes fun of me a lot because I like to tell them that what they're eating is the reason they're fat.
Yeah.
Talk about make t-shirts of that. And so, like, having like real actual meals, because like we're all, the whole Hunt Lift Eat team member program, we're all brought together because of we want to be in the backcountry, we want to be hunting,
Yeah.
And so, like, and of course the fitness aspect of it too, right? Like, you can't out PT a bad diet. You can't eat enough or eat correctly enough to stay fit without working out. It kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, dude, I love real food, real nutrition for the backcountry, and the fact you're making it with real ingredients that you would make at home, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I put a lot of really a lot of time and thought into my whole ethos for everything was like, these are the people that I hang out with. This is like you said, like these are my kids sitting by a campfire enjoying this, or like these are my friends that just hike 10,000 feet of vertical gain and like they're gassed and they want to eat something that'll refuel them so they can do it again the next day. I mean, talk about the Appalachian Trail. I got a buddy he's about to do all 2,300 miles in 40 days, so
is he running?
He's gonna run it. I mean, he'll hike it fast, but it's the fastest known time he's gonna attempt to get it, but he's pretty squared away to get it.
Wow.
You know,
I'm down to try for the slowest time.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
always
me
say
too.
like last person to the end wins.
Yeah.
You know, especially on that trail. That's a party, man. They call it the world's
Yeah.
longest pub crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because you're going from town to town there. Like pretty much you're in the woods for like 2 or 3 days, and then you pop out in the town and beers and party and
Yep.
get back in the woods for a few days, beers, party, you know. World's longest pub crawl.
That's funny. Yeah, man. And then your personal favorite, or you told me it was your favorite, the Loco Moco,
Yeah.
which you mentioned earlier, your brunch skillet.
Yeah.
Very interesting, the Hawaiian ties to it. I didn't when I ate it, I got it right here. I'm having it for lunch too.
Nice.
If I didn't know the Hawaiian background, I would have been like, oh, this tastes like a mushroom risotto kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Very similar.
It's great. It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah. The I really just like it's a fairly simple kind of concept, but like you don't often think about like beef and rice and eggs together, right? But again, you hit the protein because you're getting protein from eggs and protein from the beef. And then like mushrooms and gravy are just delicious together, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, can't beat it.
Mushrooms, onions, and gravy kind of can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to when I was working on Lost, like the big Samoan guys, like they come in the morning and they would just have a pile of rice with like 2 hamburger patties on top. They had fried eggs and then this like that brown gravy just all over it, man. And at first I was like, man, that was kind of nasty. Like, how are you doing that to yourself? But no, it's good. It's good. And I wanted to like kind of bring that into the mix. It's just a nod to that time in my life.
I need to get some of that for the wife, man. She used to be stationed in Hawaii, so she loves everything Hawaiian.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So whenever I convince her to go out to the backcountry with me, you know, take some doing to get her to go, but she will occasionally. Yeah, definitely get her some of that, man. She'll probably be more willing to go out there for that.
Lure her in with a little Loco Moco.
Yeah,
that's right.
bait that's your funny. Wife, you know.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Special awesome. Treat out there for you. I was going to try to do Spam, but Spam just has way too much fat in it.
Yeah.
Fat doesn't freeze dry, unfortunately. So,
I believe that.
Yeah, it's like because there's no water and it's just like basically like triglycerides. But like I have a lot of fat in my meals, which reduces the shelf life on them. Like I said, my meals the last 5 to 7 years, I'm pretty confident in that, without a doubt, which is long enough for me to say like, I don't want meals that last 25 years because I want people to eat them. I'm not asking you to save them for what 2050, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want people to eat meals that are that old. Honestly, even if they last that long. But I would rather have a higher fat content. I would rather have better flavor and have it last 20 years less. And I'll leave that other crap for the other guys, you know?
Yeah. And I would rather have better fuel when I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do outdoors with a better taste over anything else anytime. That doesn't wreck my stomach, which is also important.
I mean, the gut bomb test is a real deal. Like, there's some of those meals that will wreck you. And if you've had MREs, Carrie, like, you know.
Yeah. Well aware.
Luke, we're rolling up on an hour here, man. But now that you've ventured into this space and you're establishing a name for yourself and for Trail Goods, man. I'm always curious about, business owners, especially with newer companies. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to turn their outdoor passion into a business, perhaps in the outdoor space?
I think that, like, first of all, having the passion for it is the first thing you need. Like, if you don't have the passion for it, you'll get beaten down real quick. All I've ever wanted to do is be an active participant in the outdoor industry. And I found this like crazy little niche that I'm kind of good at. And I really like, I love hearing things like you said, like my kids loved it. Like it's, it tastes good and that makes me feel good. Like feeding someone, I've never had so much joy in my life than like hearing people be like, your meals are really good. Like someone sent me a picture. They're out in the, in the Caribbean on a sailboat eating one of my meals yesterday. And I was like, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Like I've never been sailing in the Caribbean. That's my meals are there. It's like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think that like without the passion to like feed people and have that feeling, like it makes things really hard. The other thing I would say is like, you got to have a basic understanding of business. And it's not that you can't learn it along the way, but like you definitely have to seek out people who know more than you. And I was able to do that, on a lot of different levels in my career when I started things I didn't know, but there's still a lot of things I'm learning. And I ran a company pretty similar to this for a few years. But I had people that worked for me that knew the things I didn't know.
Right.
And now I have to learn it myself. So it's like, if you're not afraid to work, if you're not afraid to work hard and learn, you can do anything,
Yeah.
And if you want to be part of the outdoor industry and that's something that like gets you up in the morning, then do it. I mean, someone who feels like you got your face punched in all night, but like, I still want to be here, yeah. When my bank account reads $50, I still want to be here because you know what? Someone will buy something, then it'll be 150,
That's right.
And then one day I'll look at that bank account and there'll be more than that. It's just for now. It's not forever. And you can do anything that's hard. That's one thing that being outside has taught me on all the long distance hikes I've done and all that kind of stuff. Like you can do hard things, and never quit on the bad days. Those are the two things I kind of just think about all the time, That's it.
Yeah, man. I
Eat
love
good
that.
food.
Eat good food, man. Anything new? What's next for Trail Goods? Anything you're willing to share that you got in the works or that we could keep our eyes open for?
Yeah, I'm hoping that in 2025 I get 4 more meals out. Which, there's some Italian kind of influences in some of those meals. There's some more Asian influences. But like meals that people probably haven't had before,
Nice.
Ingredients that people haven't had before. And I think the industry's ready for some stuff that's not just basic all the time,
Definitely.
People might say you always have to have the classics, but like I think you can rework the classics and make something different and interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. 100%. The hunting industry is 10 years behind every other industry, man. We're still in the Stone Age, and it's good to see new companies out here shaking things up and, filling gaps that maybe people didn't realize were there, but there's a need for. So good, tasty meals in the backcountry, man. Freaking come on and give me a little diversity with my options. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. I mean, we all like to go to, try different foods. Like why shouldn't you be able to try different foods from other places, in the backcountry? I know not everyone's going to like every meal that you make because not everyone likes every meal. But, I hope to have enough variety that people can pick and choose and say like, hey, this is actually like a week's worth of meals that taste different,
Yep.
Yeah.
Not just beef stroganoff every day.
Or right. Chili Mac.
Who eats beef stroganoff in real life? That's what I want to know.
Nobody
Exactly.
does. It's a great point. That's awesome, man. Well, we super appreciate your time, Luke. Carrie, you got any closing thoughts for us, man?
No, man. Don't eat shit, backcountry or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, we can end it on that. Carrie, I want to get you some meals. If I can shoot you my email after this.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
Awesome. Luke, you got any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, I do. I think that when you go out into the backcountry and you're doing epic shit, you should eat epic food. And come on over. We'll show you what it's about.
Heck yeah. Well, where can people find your stuff, man?
Trailgoods.co across the board. And then like Instagram and TikTok is just Trail Goods Company. So pretty easy.
My man. I love it. Well, listeners, hope you guys enjoy this episode. Luke, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for what you're doing with Trail Goods. Listeners, definitely kick on over to Trail Goods and check out what they got going on. But as always, appreciate the hell out of you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, great chatting with you, fellas. Appreciate it.